back to the channel. A lot's been happening this past few weeks. I've had to temporarily wrap up the studio with someone moving in. I've had a few rough wedding gigs. Helped out the wheelchair photographer with a maternity shoot. Here's a few shots from that. Did a few street photography all over Sydney as well. I buckled again, got some new kicks, and of course had to put them on straight away. Hockers, I'm telling you, if you're a photographer and you do a lot of walking, this is it. Been making a lot of plans, had to go city to change up some currency for our next trip. A little hint, it rhymes with Schmokyo. But today, I want to talk about being an amateur photographer and what that means to me. I think that people get a bit confused when I call myself an amateur photographer because they're fixated on the first part, the word amateur, which usually to them means you're not getting paid for your work and or you are incompetent at it. But I like the third meaning to it, which is a person that takes part just because they're interested in it or enjoy it. A hobbyist maybe. So for context, my favorite filmmaker is Martin Scorsese. He made Goodfellas, The Departed, Raging Bull. And one thing I love about him is that he still has a lot of his independent sensibilities to his movies. You know, he uses things like freeze frames, which if you know my work, I employ a lot. There's also in Wolf of Wall Street where there's a story where a crew member filmed a sample shot of a plane thing on his iPhone and showed it to him. And he said, all right, there you go, that's it. So in this $100 million budgeted movie, there was a shot from an iPhone, which I've always thought was pretty cool. There's a streak of knowing what the technically correct things to do and just not feeling restrained by them. To not feel forced to do something that doesn't speak to you. And to me, when I do my photo shoots, or even when I create anything, I like that freedom. I like that freedom of knowing what I'm capable of and knowing what the technically right thing to do would be, and also feeling free enough to break some rules, to not feel like I have to do a certain composition just because it's right, or to do a certain type of lighting just because it's prettier. So to use an example, we had this shoot. It was a sunrise shoot, and we got started, and it just wasn't hitting. I had some shots that I was happy with, but something just still didn't feel right enough. So we sat down, we spoke about it, me and the model, and we were able to communicate a bit more, and I could sort of finally figure out what her vibe was in terms of what she liked in her images. And it was actually to be a part of the environment and not so much be the focus of the shoot. So we adjusted, and I changed to a wider lens, and we went for a more environmental portrait type of style, and it just came out so much better for it. go back to being an amateur photographer, I feel like if this was a shoot where we were hired to do this, or if this was a product shoot, there would be a third party that we'd have to satisfy. And I think as a creative at the moment, one thing that I don't like is to create by committee. I like the freedom to just create what feels right to me. I like the freedom to be able to make mistakes, sometimes on purpose even. And I understand that for a lot of us, this is a job. You know, there's a criteria that we need to abide by. There's someone's taste that we have to sort of match. And I think that's why I like street photography a lot. I think it's one of the purest forms of photography because essentially you're doing it for yourself. And I hope that I get to stay at this level just a little bit longer, just so it's still fun.